Hello, thank you for inviting me here. I'm really glad to be here to participate in that great exhibition. I decided to comment a little bit on Lasse's exhibition, and so I decided to make a commentary of art historian based on art history in Poland. I posed myself a question whether the Polish artists were able to see the balloons, but then I decided maybe to modify a little bit that question, thinking about that particular installation, which is, I mean, it goes out of the archival researchers. It's about something much more deeper, I guess. For me, the art is not only about what does it show, but also what does it evoke. And again, what did you point to at the end, that it's not about the absence, but about evoking also. And for me, that installation is, to some extent, is on the sky, on the wind, on something which is not visible, which is evoked here. Because it's not here, we cannot show the sky. But it's somehow evoked by that installation. So I decided to go through some Polish examples of the use of the sky in Polish art, and I found that the use of the sky became very, very political, very ideological, but then it helped to explain different senses. So were the Polish artists able to see the balloons? Definitely in 19th century, on the beginning of 20th century, yes. That's a quote from one of the most important Polish poets, Antonsen. Indeed, wherever man stands, he sees much more heaven than earth. But the situation changes after the war. What's happening in 55, exactly in the moment once there is a launch of the balloons actions, on the streets of Warsaw appears those posters. It's a bombing, it's a poster about the bombing of Warsaw. And it was exposed on the streets of ruined Warsaw. In 55, it was not yet rebuilt Warsaw, so they exposed those huge posters along the streets of ruins of Warsaw with no, with emphasis. And I don't know whether it does have anything to do with the actions of balloons, which has the same maybe meaning of sending something from the skies, but apparently there is some interesting relation between the balloons' actions and the moment of putting that. So I went through the official art where the sky is stamped, is become kind of shelter, became kind of you have to control the sky. You have to control what you see on the sky. You are always ready to run your rockets into the sky. So the sky becomes also a sphere of danger. Some danger can arrive from the sky. We have to we have to always be ready. If we look on the sky, we see the danger, we see enemies. Then again, the state helps us to defend us from the enemies. There is that eagle, which is the symbol of Poland, which is covering the sky. It helps us. And so that probably explains why in Polish art, artists in 50s and 60s, they are not really interested in sky. But it's a general problem that art of that time is very inside the people, inside the feelings, memories. They are not looking anymore on the sky, on the outside world. They are looking on the traumas, on bad experiences. They are not no more looking above, on the reality, on the sky. The situation apparently changes in 70s with the conceptualism. That is a great work of conceptual artists in 70s, Paweł Kwiek, who in Muzeum Sztuki, in one of the most important institutions in Poland of contemporary art, did that action. He exposed that picture, asking the people what do they see on that picture. And he received dozens of different answers, different descriptions. So he played with that picture. But obviously, on the picture, we see the people seeing something which is not seen on the picture. So there is that mirror playing with visibility and invisibility. And so, yeah, we see the people seeing something which what is unseen. Yeah, interesting thing is that they are looking probably westward, yeah, toward west. They are on the seacoast, so probably they are looking toward Germany. Probably they see balloons. We can have some hypotheses. The vision of the sky falls apart. We don't have anymore a steady vision of the skies. We have to reinvent the role of the sky. So the artists begin to use the sky as a point of reflection on the reality, how we can construct again our vision of the world, beginning from the sky very often. And those considerations make me thinking of the first avant-garde experiences. One of the most important Polish artists, Władysław Strzemiński, who started at the beginning of 20th century, who worked with the most renowned constructivism artists, but not only, with Van der Burg, with a group of first avant-garde artists. He did on the end of 40s and beginning of 50s that amazing series of after image of light. Once already the social realism is introduced in Poland, he decided to get rid of that art, and he just closed in his room and he looks on the sky. And what is after image? After image is once you are looking on the light for a long time and then you close your eyes and there is some image on your retina, yeah? And so it's the issue of the limits of visibility, issue of the limits of physiognomy, also of seeing, of sight, but then also the limits of your sight, because you're risking losing your sight, right? So it's a play with the roles of art. And in the first avant-garde in Poland, you have a lot of works with the sky, with the light. Karol, who was another important Polish artist, painter, but also photographer and experimenter, did a lot with the question of light. He was highly politically involved as a communist, and he was killed by Gestapo just at the beginning of the war, the same as Bruno Schulz. But he did that series of heliographies, which was a technique he invented himself. It was kind of graphic technique, but which was based on the photographical process. So instead of using acids to develop the graphics, he used the light. But then also there is that play of light, who is of the sky, who is represented in those pictures, but at the same time it's a way of developing those pictures. So it's that double work of the lights. And here very explanatory title, The Birth of a New Era, which still deals with the lights. And another thing, suprematism, you mentioned that. I was afraid that maybe you will say what I wanted to say, but fortunately not really. The idea of suprematism was amazing because it was about changing the position of the change of the position of both the viewer and the author, right? Sometimes Malevich, explaining the idea of suprematism, claimed that it's about viewing the world from above, from the aircraft, right? So, and you can see apparently those works as if they were maps or photographs of the Earth from above. But it was not only about viewing the Earth, but about positioning the viewer himself above in the Earth, between the clouds. So it's that's utopistic aspect of suprematism, placing the visions above the world, above the Earth, in the skies. And similar things goes to another great artist, Andrzej Wróblewski. Let me skip it and go a little bit faster. Jerzy Dzierżyliński, which is kind of forgotten artist of 70s. He died very ill in 30s, but he did amazing paintings. I mean, he combined in a really particular way the pop art of 70s, of 60s, with a kind of amazing melancholy, amazing feelings of melancholy, of sorrows. So he did those series where the sky becomes the really melancholical, really place of experiencing the apocalypse. On the other side of the sky, flowers are burning. And this we can again put in relation to the official art, which I showed you before, of the eagle. Here there is the death of anxiety, the pagan of anxiety, but then it's a play of the words, because in Polish we have peace, and for anxiety we have non-peace. So it's a play of the... similar goes to other artists. That feeling of apocalypse is relevant to the artist with whom I used to work for a pretty long time, Zofia Rydet, where she did that series of annihilation, where there is that feeling of apocalypse coming from the horizons. But then a couple of years later, in 80s, actually she did that series of Endlessly Distant Road, which has kind of hope. It is a religious hope. There is that religious reference on the end, on the horizon. So it's appearing some new hope. Another artist with whom I used to work for a long time is Andrzej Różycki, and he did the first picture he did in 60s. It was based on the symbolistic paintings, Polish, 19th century. But then he modified that picture. He discovered the magazines coming from the West, and he discovered that there are plenty of colors, smilings, happiness, etc., etc. So he decided to put it above that girl, teenage girl, showing the dreams, the ideas of happiness, which are placed on the sky above. That is last picture I'm gonna explain to you, but just before, let me explain the title, St. Mary's Curse. I don't know if you have the same word in German, but in art history you have that reference to Orthodox icons, where you have the portrait, the pictures of Madonna, of St. Mary with child, and she's covered by a metal part. All her body is covered by, and we call it skirt, koszulka. So it's a kind of play with the skirt is a part of the liturgical part of the icons tradition, Orthodox. Andrzej Różycki, being an artist highly involved in the conceptual elaboration on the media, decided to apply it to elaborate on the photography using the really traditional meanings. And so he decided to again do the same as those St. Mary's skirts in the traditional painting does. So somehow they sign the holy, the sacred place of the picture. It's being a sacred place, covered. So simply while developing the picture, he put on that picture different things as crosses, as the figures of Jesus, as in that case rosary. And it somehow began while being developed, the picture became also sacred. So it was the conceptual idea of him he had. But I decided to include that picture because of the story he told me. I met Andrzej Różycki before coming here, and he told me, once I told him I'm going to be here, he told me, you know what, I remember those balloons. In '55 he was 13 years old, and he told me a story of he experienced in '55. He used to live at the countryside. He visited his family on the dinner, and he saw an amazing tablecloth. It was something so strange, like if it would come from the other world. It was white, it was almost non-material thing, and he asked, what is that? Oh, just shut up, you better don't know that. But he insisted on knowing what is that, and then they explained him that one day there was an action because a balloon arrived in the village, and another teenage boy decided to grab it. So he took the pitchfork and he broke the balloon, he got it. And of course, he decided to straight away destroy all the content, political content, to not have any problems. So he burned it already straight away, but he kept that material and he put it back home, and it served for years as a special tablecloth for the special occasions. And so they didn't care at all about the content sent from West, but it was fascinating to them. And once Andrzej told me that story, of course, I knowing his work, it came to my mind that picture, which could be that imagination of that story of, you know, following that balloon, which in that case is replaced by some sacred element. But I was thinking that those balloons also they gain a sacred meaning, and I just thought that, you know, that shape of balloons, can be connected to different ideas, not the Catholic one, but once taking Bruno Schulz and knowing that he was a Jew and he was highly involved in the Jewish tradition, then appears the idea of Shekinah, which is the material aspect of God descending from heaven, right? So once the God appears in the material world, he appears as a cloud. That is the Talmudistic explanation of how does the God appear in the material world. But then again, we can have different references, and other reference which is purely aesthetic is that vision of Albrecht Dürer, Melancholia. Once you have that strange shape above the angel, which is really, to me, relevant also to Lasse's work. So, yeah. So just to comment last phrase on that installation, it's that's those shapes, those strange balloons are for me a kind of strange place where the religious, traditional and artistic imaginations strangely intermingle. So congratulations and thank you very much. I hope we can discuss it later on. Thank you.